Have to double check restream because this is the second time I'm using this. Uh, sending data, and we are online on YouTube. Oh, I have to change the title. Yeah. Are you on right now? Yes, ma'am. Ho ho.
Let's get the notice on my phone.
You just got the notice on your phone?
Me on the screen.
That is. Social alerts. Oh. I just have to update the social alerts. There we go. All right, cool. Everything went out. I think we're good to go.
Okay.
So you're seeing it on your screen for your Twitch.
I'm
Haha.
looking at it on my camera. I mean, on my phone.
Oh, I got it too.
On my camera. I mean, on my phone. So why is it only me and not you?
Oh, because I haven't switched the scene yet, so I can do that. There we go. You
Yeah,
see it now?
because they're gonna be like they checked into the wrong channel. It's obviously not Dylan.
All right, there we go. Now you see it?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Okay, so Del, thank you for joining me on DayDreams podcast. It's pretty cool.
Abby.
Good to have you, man. So you're my boss. You're the founder of Epic Professionals. You have run and successfully owned your own business, multi-million-dollar business at that. How did you get started in the I guess the intellectual disabilities field?
Actually, I think we had a conversation recently. I was saying I was a business major in kind of IT concentration. So I
Yeah.
thought I was going to be in business and IT and that kind of stuff. And while I was in college, I didn't do any internships or anything, so I really didn't have that much experience. And so I went for my first interview after I graduated, and it was with a company in Memphis. And they were like, "Well, you don't really have the experience for this position, but it happened to be a residential campus for people with behavior problems, like for children."
Right.
And so that was the company. So they said, well, we don't have any position. We know you're not really a good fit for this position, the IT position, but we have openings in one of our group homes. I was like, I don't really know anything about a group home, but I had just finished college and I didn't have a job. And I was like, all right, sure, I'll do it, whatever. And so that's literally how I got into the field because it wasn't my intention to
Your forte. So how old were you?
21.
21.
Yep.
Yeah, that good old age where everybody's deciding they need to start figuring out life.
21, 22, maybe. Yeah. Okay, somewhere around there.
Yeah, but we were talking about how you got involved with what's the one thing where you guys go on vacations?
Oh, the guided tour.
Guided tours. Are they
Yeah.
still around?
Yeah, they're still around.
Still doing their own thing? Going to cool places?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jordan says
Um,
it's the guy from the chat.
I know. I was just looking at that.
Hey Jordan.
Hey,
Welcome back.
Jordan.
Yeah, it's the guy from the chat, my boss. The good old boss man.
Sounds like it might have been more to that conversation. Like I remember him.
Yeah.
um,
All good things. All good
most
things.
of most of my jobs actually, I kind of fell into them actually, so it's kind of interesting because even that job, I always have these weird points in my career where I just kind of like just do something crazy.
Yeah.
So I was working in Memphis. I was in Memphis, Tennessee at the time, and I was working a job and I just kind of had this itch that I wanted to do something else. So I decided to something changed on Twitch by the
I did
way.
it on purpose so that way
Oh,
it's more interactive, you know? Ah.
okay. All right. Yeah, so I get these points in my career where I'm just like I just need to do something different. So I had this urge just to do something different. So I went to like AmeriCorps, I think is what it was called,
Miracle
where they
Corps?
yeah, like I just switched all together, and I just did AmeriCorps, and I was assigned to the Mid South Arc, so it's like the local arc in Memphis, and I was doing something. I forget what I was doing administratively, and the people from the guided tour were in town, were on the trip, and they called the arc because one of their staff had called out. And I was there, and my boss said, "Hey, we got this agency from out of town, and they're short of staff. Would you go help them?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not? I'm not doing that." And so while I was doing AmeriCorps, I ended up getting connected with those people, and I did the trip, and they liked me, and I liked them, and so then I ended up doing trips, sporadically throughout the next 10 years or so.
What's
That
been
was in 2003.
what's been one of the coolest places that you've gone?
Coolest, Hawaii is cool. I
Hawaii
mean,
is cool.
Honolulu. I've been to Honolulu twice,
Is
and
it
we
is
went
it
to
as cool as
Kona.
everybody says?
It's just so different because you're just so far away from home, and it's just weird to think about how far you are from everything else. You're just out in the middle of the ocean.
Really?
Yeah, but it's a cool place, and I love Aruba, so I've been there a few times with them as well. So that's kind of like my favorite place.
Have you ever been on a cruise?
I've been on a lot of cruises, maybe like 10. I think I've cruised at least 10 times.
Honestly, Nikki and I go on a cruise like every so often, and they're very surreal, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's yelling in the background that she loves cruises, but
Uh,
they're very surreal in the sense that, like, especially at nighttime when you go out on the
yeah.
deck and you just
Oh yeah,
look,
that's nice.
it's
That's
just
right.
the
Yeah.
abyss. Like, there's just
Yeah.
blackness for miles.
And even if you know enough about me to know that I'm kind of have a love hate with that because me and those kind of spaces, I'm like, yeah, I like it, and I'll go so far, and then I'm like, okay, that's good enough.
Yeah, the
It just
same for
depends on
me.
where I'm at on the ship and how much space is between me and the edge. Yeah.
Yeah, the same for me. I mean, I was originally afraid of cruises to begin with, just because
Mhm.
being stuck at sea
Mm.
in case something happens. I mean, in my head, what if pirates come along? Like,
Oh, good grief.
I mean, that literally what goes on in my head. But the past couple times that we've gone on cruises has been really enjoyable.
I haven't been on a cruise in a few years now, so you know, as my anxiety acts up, who knows how I would react. But for the most part, when I'm on cruises, I enjoyed myself. I was chill. I've been on some interesting. I've been on some where it was really bumpy and choppy, and surprisingly, that didn't bother me. Like I've been on some this water's been really rough, and it's like up and down, and it didn't really bother me at all. I didn't get motion sickness or anything.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna get motion sickness, especially with my ear, and you know
Mhm.
that how that thing bugs me. And if
Yeah.
anybody has watched the stream long enough, they'll see me doing the. That's not me doing anything but trying to
Yeah,
pop my
that's because
ear.
of your ear. Yes,
Oh
exactly.
yeah, not me just
Yeah, I
calling
understand.
me out,
I,
Dylan.
I,
Calling me
yeah, I
out.
know how the inner ear could affect that.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
making me cringe. I'm not doing that for cringy reasons. I'm really trying to
Mhm.
pop my ear.
Hey, I know we're recording, so I'm going with what you say.
Yeah, you're gonna hold me to this. Yeah, if I that's why I have to be careful with what I say with you on stream because I know one day you're gonna be like, Dylan, remember back to that stream? Remember what you said? And you're gonna pull it out and you're gonna use it against me. I know it. In a
Might be in
good
a
way.
positive
In a
way,
good
though.
way.
That's what I'm gonna say. It could be, you know,
Like to get
we've
me to
already had a discussion about this stream,
yeah, to get me
and
to stay
and we were,
motivated or something.
yeah, because remember the phone call I made to you? Was it on yesterday?
Yeah. Okay, we're not gonna
Yeah.
go into that. We're not gonna
Next
go into
topic,
that.
huh?
Yeah, we're just gonna avoid that simple fact real quick. But so kind of like you, I've fallen into most of my careers. I met you through one of the companies I used to work with, and it just seemed kind of chronological or destined to work out. I guess if that makes sense. I don't want
Mhm.
to say it in a weird, cringy way, but with the company that I was working at,
I'm not very cringy, so you're good.
yeah, it was like things had matched up in a way that I had just gotten this job, and then I was there for so long that I finally was able to meet you. And then after things didn't work out with them, you kind of were like, "Young grasshopper, let me take you under my wing." So I mean,
Yeah.
it just kind of worked out. I've kind of fallen into place with all my jobs.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting how that fell into place.
Yeah.
But I had heard about you like months before.
Well, good to know that I
Certain
have a good
person related to
reputation.
you was bragging how wonderful you were and how smart you were and how your position you were going to be getting. And so I had heard about it a couple of times, and I was like, oh, that's me at work, and people are talking like that's nice. Sounds pretty cool. I didn't really know who you were, so
Well, I hope I have lived up to some of those expectations. Not all
yeah,
of them, but
yeah.
probably some of them.
I
You
don't have
know.
to go into that either.
Yeah. We'll do that off stream. We'll do a
All right,
complete
yeah. Check
evaluation.
check the chat. Check our personal chat for the answers to that.
Yeah, we'll do
Um,
we'll do a whole evaluation on what's going on. Um,
Where's Mason, man? He needs to be on here. I ain't got on here. Where is he at? He's working again or what?
yeah, man, he's trying to move out, so he's making the big money right now.
Uh, Man, he needs to do what I did, man. I'd be on my phone, had it in my pocket or something.
I know, right?
But we don't want him to get fired from his job.
Oh,
So
of course not.
keep
We'll
up the
get
good work, man.
yeah, Mason. You keep doing you, buddy.
He can watch the recording or something. He should get a shout out.
Jordan says yes.
Mhm.
Um, so you've ran your own company though. What was that like?
Mhm.
I mean, you've ran several companies, like including this
Yeah.
one, but the one before this one, you guys were called
Empowering people in the community. So
Empowering
it was
People.
EPIC. It was that's the acronym
That
for
was the
empowering
acronym,
people in the
Epic.
community. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, it's it's exciting in a way. I mean, you know me and how I work, so you know kind of how I develop things and kind of how I organize things.
Yeah,
So
you're very
it's very
structured.
it's very exciting and it's fun to watch something grow and it's kind of like playing Monopoly in real life where you're kind of but then it's also very very stressful.
Yeah, running your own
It's
company.
extremely it's not the company part. It's just if I had to say what it is, probably the responsibility. It's kind of like having, in my case, it was 40 of us. It's kind of like having 39 children.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like you're responsible for them. Like if something happens, they can't get paid, and then so it's a ripple effect of that. So, and then dealing with the industry that we're in, the payment schedules and are not as predictable as they should be. It's Medicaid, so people get fell on, they fell off. Sometimes you could bill, sometimes the system was down. Sometimes,
Right.
and I was 30, 31. So, I mean, at 31, I hadn't really done anything that kind of prepared me to run my own company. I was an assistant director basically at a place before I started doing my own company. But I was there and I was kind of like, I could do this. I'm just going to do an application. And that's one of those spurts again where I just had this epiphany or something. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I just did the application and I sent it off. And this was right before me and my friends were going on a trip to Puerto Rico. Or I mailed the application off and then we went off to Puerto Rico. And I really didn't think too much about it. So I was like, yeah, I don't know what inspired me to do it. I just wanted to do it.
Like your
And I
own
kind of had
business.
this, huh?
Run your own business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And start, yeah, and do the agency. So, with Medicaid, you have to do an application and go through that whole process and everything. So I started the application process in May or something. And maybe by August, it was approved and we were kind of ready to go. And things just kind of fell into place with, funding and money. And, it was 2010. And so by the time my current employer found out that I would start my own provider agency, they politely asked me to leave.
Ooh.
And so I was escorted out. I probably never told you this part.
I don't
But it
think
wasn't
so.
like it wasn't like a bad thing. It was just kind of like that was their process. So they sent this little guy. I guess he was supposed to be security. He was shorter than you, and so he had come to escort me. I was like, "Can you gonna carry the box, or you just gonna walk with me? Like, what are we doing here?" But I mean, so I left
Keep
there,
in
and we were
mind, chat, that this guy is what, six what?
6'5". Yeah.
6'5". I'm 5'9", so he's talking about the guy that's security is shorter than me, trying to escort him out. I can only imagine someone my size just trying to come. Dale, we
Well,
gotta go.
it was just funny. Like the whole scene of it was really weird. So my direct boss, was like freaking out because she was like, I didn't tell her and she didn't know. And I think she wanted to do the same thing, but she was kind of unorganized and really wasn't able to pull it together. And I did.
Right.
And so I started it. And it was just me. Like it was literally just me and this idea. And there was a close friend of mine that we had been talking about doing it together, but he was still working somewhere else, and so we kind of waited until I could afford to do it, bring him on full time. So I think I remember getting like the first three clients, and finally like getting him to come on. And at the end of 2010, so by this time, I started the company. It wasn't a lot of money coming in. I'm not really sure how I survived with no money because I think I was on unemployment. I think that's what it might have been. So I was just kind of scraping by. My mom was still alive, so I was helping her pay her bills, and I never really told her that I didn't have any money because I was starting my business. She knew I didn't. I was starting my own business, but I didn't really go into detail.
Yeah.
And so I went to this meeting one day with the county people, county officials, or whatever, and the lady was like, "Oh, how much money do you need to help you get started?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe 30,000." And she was like, "Okay." I
And she just
was like,
she just
"Damn,
was
I should
like,
have said 50."
yeah, she
Like
was
I
just like,
and
go
so it
for
just
it.
yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of politics. It was Philadelphia. I was the first person or agency to apply to do supports coordination in the state of Pennsylvania. Because before then, each county had a contract process where they selected the agency themselves. But when they opened it up to application process, anybody could do it.
Right.
So I was the first agency to ever do it. So the state didn't even really know how to process all of this stuff. So me, it was like, all right, well, what form do you need? What system do you need to be in? What computer system are you? How do you set up billing? Like it was a whole lot of stuff to get started. And of course, me being the kind of person
Is
I
there
am, I was kind of helping them figure it out along the way. So
Well, is there any advice that you'd give to somebody that's like a future entrepreneur or somebody that was starting their own business? Like, is there one mistake that you wish that someone starting their own business would not repeat? Or one mistake that you thought was just like, you know what, fuck, here's save you some time, learn from this.
I would be careful who you hire.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you really need to the people that you bring in and the people that you know you share your idea with, your passion with. You really have to be careful.
Yeah. So far
That's such a dangerous thing.
I've noticed managing personal relationships in especially like a business oriented facility or a business contract can be very challenging to navigate.
I mean, when we first met, my conversation with you and kind of my reluctance, I guess, or I don't know what the word is for it. I'm sure you have a word for it, but you know how when we first met, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna, how this is gonna work.
Right.
I don't know if I want to do this again. Like I had planned on being just me doing this, and I really wasn't expecting to have, a colleague or a coworker or anything like that or a team. I just wanted to do it on my own. So
I completely understand.
but
And
here we are now. What, a year and a half, 2 years?
I know I
Yeah,
made it. I made it, bro.
we're not at 2 years yet, are we? It hasn't been two
No,
years
no,
yet.
2 years will be in August.
Yeah, so it's something like. But I mean, that's probably a year and a half longer than I thought it would probably work. And
Hey,
it wasn't necessarily you. I thought I just was so, jaded from the previous experience. I didn't,
I'm glad I've exceeded some expectations, you know.
that's
I'm
not quite what I meant, but okay, we go with that too.
We'll stick with it,
That's
all
not
right?
talking
That's what I
about me.
think you
Yeah,
meant.
I exceeded expectations, but if you
That's
want to, throw yourself in there too, hey,
I'm
it's
going
room
to,
for.
man. I just want to make sure that everything on my part is as good as it can be.
I mean, we're learning together. I guess. I mean, I'm learning, to kind of trust my instinct in a certain way, and not to trust my instinct in other ways. But I mean, somebody who really wants to do a business. I mean, I tell you this all the time. Like it'll be easy if it's something that you're passionate about.
Right.
It won't be hard work. You won't consider it challenging or boring or anything like that because it's something you want to do.
There we
So,
go. So,
I mean, that kind of goes into kind of a conversation that we had. Like, I guess when we first met, we were talking about, how do you find out what you want to do? It's like, well, if it comes easy to you and if you're interested in it, you'll find the time and energy and the effort to put towards it,
that's what
whether you
I
have to learn something new.
that's what I found out from doing this podcast, especially is, when you have like a hobby or an interest in really pursuing it, the energy that comes from it kind of motivates you. So when you have, I mean, we're gonna skip our conversation yesterday that we had. So, but the energy that we have with our interests or what we find important to us will motivate you. So it's really important to find things that, like you said, interest or intrigue you the most.
I mean, because you and I had some very interesting conversation when we first started working together. I don't know how much you appreciated it. You probably thought it was kind of strange or crass or whatever, but
I liked it, man. It helped me
it
kind of
was
evolve a
different.
little bit. Jordan says something. People with work ethic is hard to find.
You know, definitely.
Yeah,
And people who can maintain it. Like people start out with work ethic, first 30, 60, 90 days.
it's that
Then after
impressing
that, they're
phase.
kind of like,
Yeah.
they're in now. And then they start saying, well, I'm showing up every day, so I deserve a 10% raise. It's like,
Well,
really, you're kind of doing the minimum.
well, that's kind of how it is
So
with
you,
like relationships in general, don't you think? Like people in
it's
general.
exactly how it is in relationships. And thank God we're not talking about that today, are we?
Hey man, but no, for real though. Like people assume that work relationships can be different than personal relationships, which
No,
true. You
it's all
should,
the same.
yeah, they can be if you set up the boundaries correctly. But in
Well, if you're
general,
dealing with human beings, you have the human psychology and all the aspects of that. You're just bringing it to a different environment, but it's the same. I mean, if you're insecure or if you're whatever your issue is, or if you're OCD or whatever it is, you're going to bring that to work just like you would into a relationship,
right?
any other relationship. So it's I've met some interesting people. I'm like, man, it was eye opening for me. I mean, because I was thinking, oh, we're growing and we're doing all this stuff, and we had like 40 employees, and it was like an insane asylum. At some points, it was like, man, this person really, really just out there. So I mean, when you get around that many people, and you've worked in some environments, small and probably
Oh
larger
my
ones,
gosh, yeah,
where it's
yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
you just all these people. It's like it makes you nervous to be around. It made me gun shy being around people because it was like are nuts. I'm probably a little nuts too, and you mix that together, and it's not a good combination.
Well, one of the hardest parts is like trying to improve an organization that doesn't want to improve, or improve an environment or a culture that doesn't want to improve. So we've had this experience with some of the people that we work with, and obviously not going to get into any names, but
Yeah.
it's challenging when you're trying to come in with your bright ideas or new ideas. Let's just say new ideas, and the people that you want to kind of give them to I guess work on or improve with, they just kind of are like whatever, and they don't want to do anything with it.
That's because people don't change,
Yeah,
you know, external. They change because they want to change. So I
really.
mean, you can motivate them to kind of examine themselves, or an organization, you can motivate them to examine themselves, and then say, okay, we'll let you do what it is we need to do, or I'll make the change, or they'll just resist you the whole time.
Yeah.
It's probably a defense mechanism. I'm sure you have some author or some philosopher you want to quote and
Well,
say,
well, see, that's the problem I'm trying to work at, is trying to see how we can motivate people, especially in our business, since we're dealing with like Medicaid and Medicare and dealing with personal care or caregiving in general. I'm trying to figure out how we can motivate people in the environment to
I think
actually
I did one of my papers for my master's program on that,
really.
innovation or organizational change or something like that. I'm
What
sure I did.
conclusion did you come to?
We're screwed because the theories didn't. How I am about some of the theories and stuff. It didn't apply to the field. So when they were doing these studies, they were doing studies in different environments, but it wasn't in our field. So
Well, and see,
it
that's
didn't seem
where
it didn't seem like it crossed because it's
the
not the
cultural
same.
boundaries.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same thing. It's a lot of different.
Right.
It's like every company is different. Every industry is different.
Well, that's
And
what I
so
was
what
trying to
may
tell.
work in.
that's what I was trying to tell my friend. We were talking about Simon Sinek's leadership qualities and what he says that you should be doing as a business and organization to help motivate your staff and what leaders should be
Mhm.
doing. And so when I try to take that to one of my old organizations, I did not find any success. And I think it's because of the reason that you were stating, and we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
It's mainly because of that cultural aspect. Yeah, those things work. All of his theories and all of his interests work. His leadership methods work. I'm not denying that. They just work in a specific environment. In our environment, and not every environment is the same as that one environment. You got to account different cultures. You got to account for different backgrounds, different personal experience, and even down to ethnicity. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's something
Well,
that
I
people
mean,
don't
some of
really
those
take into
things are
account.
just cultural issues, in our country. And so, again, you bring all the baggage of everybody you hire into the workplace. So then you're going to get all of those dynamics. You're going to have, male female dynamics. You're going to have cultural, racial dynamics. Sexual issues and that kind of, sexuality. Everything that you have in society at large, you're going to have in your workplace if you more than one or two or three people.
Right.
So,
All those things you have to kind of balance. And you were talking.
and every time I think about it, I'm like, oh man, I need to just go back to
Yeah, because you were saying, oh man, I'm getting phasey. You can see right through me. You were talking about earlier, um, one of the most challenging parts of running your own business is the collective responsibility of everybody.
yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously, all those characteristics that you just named, in and of itself, is part of that responsibility. So, I mean, I can understand why, you know,
The work is easy for me. Like I don't
right,
usually get too. You've never really seen me stressed about the work. Like, it don't matter what it is. It could be something. I'm like, I'll figure it out, or we can do something. We'll create something. We'll do something. The work never really bothered me.
right.
The people part of it bothered me. So I mean, you have to. I mean, your ability to work with others and manage conflict and you know it's a lot. The HR side of it is more than I would. That's why I would never probably. I guess I should say never. It's
Yeah, because once you say
I'm
never, it's gonna
unlikely.
happen.
It's unlikely that I would want to go into an existing program or agency or company and like be a director where I have like direct reports.
Right.
I don't like that. I don't really like even kind of what we do now. I'm like I'm not always all that because people will do what you say for certain reasons, but they don't feel comfortable really being honest and telling you what's going on. So then, and you and I've had this conversation too. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
people say a lot of stuff, but you don't really mean it.
When it comes to
And
work
so,
responsibilities, right?
yeah, well, that's what. But I mean, I would say probably in general, people just say, yeah, okay, But I'll restrict it to work because that's kind of the area I know about more. But people say stuff like, oh yeah, I can do that, or I'll help you. I can help with this, or whatever you need, or that kind of stuff. But really, they're like, hey, I'm just trying to get through this 4 hour, 6 hour, 8 hour shift and go to hell home.
Yeah, and that's
And so they're not into it. And so if that's what you're looking for,
then
the
fine.
bigger you get, the percentage of people you have that are like that are going to be very, very small. And so the kind of person that I am, and you've worked with me for a while, and like when I'm into my work, like I take it, see, I want it to look and to be a certain way. I'm really, I want it to be a reflection of me and I want it to look good. And so, and everybody's not like that. And most people aren't like that. They can, it's like, man, well, this is what I do to pay the rent and to go on vacation or whatever it is they're doing. And
Right.
those are all legitimate. It's just as a business owner, you have to be able to reconcile in your mind that, hey, this people that are around you aren't into what you're into. They're there to serve their purpose. You
Yeah.
have to kind of match their purpose with yours in order to make it work.
And I take that's part of the cynic in you speaking.
The what?
The cynic. And everybody's here collectively. I mean, it's not a bad thing that people, are there to fulfill their own needs. I mean, everybody does that in general when you're talking about
Oh yeah, I
obtaining a
agree. That's what I'm saying.
paycheck.
But yeah, but as a, again, when you talk about the collective weight of everything, you
Right.
start looking at everything. You're like, you start to feel isolated and alone, and like, you know, you're the only. Like it can be really. It's really hard to. It's hard to describe it, but if you've ever been in a situation where you were like really excited, take the podcast. Okay, you're super excited about this. You put all this energy, you've invested money in purchasing things and getting things set up, and you have somebody, and they're like, yeah. And so after a while, that starts to weigh on you, and you're like, okay,
What's your problem,
I'm
bro?
feeling some kind of way because you're so into it, and you just kind of have, I don't know if it's a subconscious thing. You just kind of have this expectation that the other person is in, and because they're telling you, yeah, let's do this, but they're really like, that's just my boss
Yeah.
asking me to do something. So this is my line I got to give them.
I, I
But
wa-
you and I, like I said, we've had this conversation
we
where
have
you
we
probably
have
thought it was strange, and it was like, yeah, don't tell me nothing you don't
No,
need. No, no,
I've
just tell me.
personally experienced this myself where, when we're doing the podcast and we have like a guest speaker or something, and not everybody that has been on the podcast, there's been more people that have attempted to be on the podcast, or I have attempted to get them on the podcast per se. But, sometimes it doesn't work out because obviously some people aren't as excited about this as I am, and I can tell because when I ask them, I'm like, "Hey, could you come on the podcast?" They'll say yes in that moment because they don't want to say no or hurt my feelings. But then when it gets
They don't
down
mean
to it and we
it.
actually get down to the time, it's like, oh, sorry, something came up. I mean, granted, I believe I try my best to just get my mind out of that space, like, oh, well, they just didn't want to do the podcast. And I have to kind of get my mind back into okay, what if they really did have something? Let's drop it. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a podcast. But it is important to me. So I understand what you're saying, like as like an
Well,
owner of
apply
this
that
property.
to your like your livelihood,
Right.
where it's and then the livelihood of other people. So if you had 10 staff on your podcast and your guest canceled, and it's like, okay, well now my advertiser is backed out because my guest canceled, and I was supposed to pay everybody Friday. Now I can't be payroll.
Yeah,
So
that's
like I've been
rough.
in that situation where I had how many employees? I mean, we had maybe like 30 something employees. So I had to call them all into the conference room and tell them, hey, you know what? It's like Tuesday, and I'm saying, hey, we're not going to be able to meet payroll.
That's
So,
scary. And I
because
understand
we
why
just
you have that
couldn't,
anxiety over your
we
head.
couldn't do it. And it turned out that actually we ended up meeting payroll, but because it was a system glitch and it looked like it wasn't going to come through, but the payment came through anyway.
I'm
But
already
we had already
annoyed.
told them that we couldn't. Well, I told them that we weren't going to. So once I said that, everybody just kind of like checked out.
Right.
So they were like, "Oh man, they were looking at the places, and people were talking about, the company's going under, and we can't make it, and what we doing with the money. Just all those conversations started, and running your business and doing payroll and managing payroll taxes and all that kind of stuff. Like if you haven't done it, it's a lot of anxiety that goes with that, trying to make sure that everybody gets paid and IRS gets their money and the state wants their money and you know you're paying office rent, all kinds of stuff just comes up. It's a lot. It's a lot to manage. It's a lot to do.
Hopefully you didn't think that when I got sick. No, Jordan, I didn't, because I know you're pretty punctual with things. I promise. I didn't think that when you got sick because you've showed up to every podcast, so I 100% believed you. Um, I just want to make that be known real quick. But I can understand why you have that anxiety because in my personal experience, I'm not a confrontational kind of guy. So if I had to go into a room full of employees that I was responsible for and they're looking to me to pay their bills, I don't know what the hell I'd do if I told them they couldn't get paid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd probably send someone else in. I'd be like, "Look, listen, they're gonna
But
chop off your head today."
I mean, everybody knew I was the one that was responsible. So you get all the bad and some of the good.
Yeah, I mean, gosh,
I mean, there's pros and cons to being your own boss. And so they're the responsibility part. So most people, the reason why they probably end up not starting their business is because they don't want to be responsible. You can give them a small task and you can kind of check and see if somebody really wants to be responsible. And most people would rather have somebody else do it and they just kind of help do stuff, but they want to be in charge, kind of. They feel like in their head they want to be in charge. But if you really give them the opportunity to take charge of something, they kind of shy away from
So, in your opinion, then, the most difficult thing about handling personal relationships and employees. Oh, hold on. Actually, Jordan just asked a question. Any tips on how to grow a small business to a big one? It's actually a better question than I was going to ask.
it. I mean, anything is going to take some time and energy. So, I mean, the only way something's going to grow is if you tend to it. So, you're going to have to spend time researching the business that you're in. You're going to have to, invest financially, but also in time and energy and, trying to figure out what it is that's going to make people want to buy into your business, whether you're creating new customers or, expanding your market share or creating more product. Whatever you're in, you're going to have to spend some time to kind of, it's going to become your baby. You're
Yeah.
going to have to really put the time into it and, and it'll grow. I mean, if you're excited about something and you can put 100% and make it the best you possibly can, then I mean, my experience has been that everything I've done has grown. I'm shocked even now, again, doing this again. It's like, man, we were doing one or two little things, and next thing you know, I'm like, wait a minute, there's four of us. Where did all
Yeah,
this come
Epic
from?
Professionals is growing pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, you
So
only started this like what, a year and a half, 2 years ago?
when you started is when I started.
Oh my
I
gosh,
literally just started it
I was
right
his first
before I met
contract.
you.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So it was, again, I wasn't planning on doing that again. And then next thing I know, I run into you. And I'm like, well, I wasn't planning on doing this again. And, so,
Life's just throwing
but
lessons at you that you got to learn.
right. But I mean, you really, to grow it, you really have to, you're going to have to learn. And if you're the owner, you're going to have to teach yourself.
Right.
Most of the people that you work with aren't going to be interested in growing your business or helping you grow your business. They're going to be interested in what you can purchase from them. Even accountants and lawyers and all these people that, say, oh, I need to get this marketing person. I need to get this person. You need to have some basic knowledge yourself of what you need and what you're looking for. Because if not, people are going to take your money and then you're going to be looking around saying nothing happened. You want to make sure that you have, some knowledge about what every aspect of your business so that you are able to make some decisions from an informed position.
Right. And Jordan says, "Okay, thanks. I work for a business. It isn't really small, but it's compared to, but it. Hold on, what? I can't read it from that small
I'm
print.
reading it now,
Yeah,
yes.
I have it.
Yeah.
I'm reading it on the
We
screen
grow
from the actual Twitch page,
years by
but I got to
promoting.
read it from here. We grow within years by promoting on social media. We'll keep it up then. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of promoting to this channel, especially,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the one thing that I want to get done before I begin promotion of this channel is the editing of videos, which I finally got a software that I found. It's like a brand new software that came out like 2 months ago. Um, and it's called Video Proc. And what it does is it basically takes all the videos up and splits it into 15-minute segments. And then I can post it and upload to YouTube. So that's what I'm really trying to get done before I start sending it out over
Oh man, I'm
Facebook
gonna
and
be on
everything.
YouTube.
Yeah, you're going to be on YouTube, buddy. But I have to wait within 24 hours or else YouTube's going to copyright this shit, which they copyrighted my last video, which is fan freaking tastic.
We have to come up with a good alias for me then.
Yeah. So, well, your name is on screen, so
That's great.
you didn't give me any special requests, bro.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you hadn't posted it yet either, have you?
No, but it's on the name channel. So like if you view like the title of this stream on Twitch is your name.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which I usually do
We'll see.
that. Jordan had made a special request to keep her other name out of it. So I had to make sure I
All right. I should have thought of that, huh?
did you want me to do that?
Too late now anyway, isn't it?
I mean, I can always delete the video when we're done.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I won't make you delete.
Yeah. This is good quality content right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So you've ran your own business and you have been successful in running your own business. Um, are there any challenges right now that you are seeing that are arising in this current business that you foresaw or that were foreshadowed in the past business?
Well, I think you're saying, but it also failed miserably as well, which has
Okay,
kind of
so
led
hold
me
on.
to the
You
new
you,
business.
you just broke up. Repeat that.
Oh, okay. Now I was saying, I ran a business and then it failed, which led me to the where I'm at now to start another one. So you kind of have the ups and downs. Can you hear me okay?
Moral of the story: never give up.
Yeah.
Never give
Fall
up.
down and get back up again, whatever
Yeah.
cliche
I
you want to
get knocked
use.
down, but I get up again.
Take a punch and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the challenges still are, balancing between growth and stability. Kind of like, okay, you can be stable, make a certain amount of money, you know, hoard it, save it, don't invest in people and that kind of stuff. Where it's like, all right, here we go with tax season now. So like most people think, oh, I get my W-2s, I can do my filing, get my return. It doesn't work like that for everybody. Tax season sometimes like, okay, figure out how you can come up with a few $1,000s by April 15th
Mm.
and still pay yourself and everybody else, and then prepare to pay this year's April 15th tax bill too. So it's not, it's different kinds of pressures when it comes to that. So you kind of look at it saying, all right, well, if I didn't pay all of this stuff, I could do this. If I paid this out, so it's always that kind of, push and pull where you're trying to balance out,
Right.
um, you know, and I won't say it like it's just about money, but it's more of the investment of, do you want to invest in somebody or in a team so that you can grow and ultimately be bigger than you are now? Or do you just kind of want to hunker down, deal with the contracts and at the level you are now and just kind of say, hey, I can just survive like this for the rest of my life? I'm
Yeah.
not really in a survival mode kind of person. I'm always pushing, even though I say, okay, I'm good now, I'm just going to settle. And then I never do. I end up pushing.
Always pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
I
But
can.
that's a challenge. It's always a challenge trying to balance those two.
Do you ever think that you might at some point want to slow down?
I'm probably gonna have to slow down. I don't think I have a choice. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, if you as you continue to get older and mature, I guess at some point you always slow down. You can't keep up the pace forever.
Yeah. True.
But I mean, at this point, I'm kind of at the start over phase, so I'm not really in the position to slow down because I'm not stable in that way yet. I still need to have some growth and some development of the business and for my own personal finances to get to a certain place where I can be comfortable. So I'm not at that, not close to that place actually. So I need some work.
What are some barriers culturally do you think that have been in place for you in business?
I think well, race is probably one, but it's been both positive and negative, I guess. Because in some situations, it's like, oh, it's a black guy, it's another, and they're like, hey, welcome, I'm so glad to
Right.
see another black person. Hey, come on in, So it has worked positively as well. I was in majority minority city of Philadelphia. Atlanta is the same way, so it's kind of it's not the same kind of. But when you get into the power where the real money is and where the real decisions are made,
Mm-hmm.
then it's kind of like, did you play basketball? Did you, I'm like, I thought this was a conference about people with disabilities. Why are we talking about basketball? you know, and you know how warm and fuzzy I am
Oh
sometimes. So it's
yeah,
like,
man. Just completely
are you married?
approachable.
Do you have any kids? Do you have a dog? And I'm thinking,
What the
oh, we're
hell?
going to talk about,
Yeah.
your electronic health records, so I mean, that's a barrier. I think it's just culturally how people, you have an older generation, people older than me. I'm
Right.
older than you, so that's a different generation. So you have those kind of generational gaps on people's work ethic and what they believe and how they do things. So um, then just work ethic in general. I think somebody else she had commented earlier about that, or somebody commented earlier about that, saying
Yeah, that was
people's
Delano.
work ethic. I would guess that most people's work ethic isn't as good as they say it is.
Oh no.
Like
Uh,
most people say, "Oh, I'm a hard worker," and I'm thinking, yeah, I could probably debunk that in about 5 minutes. Just having a conversation. You're like, "Oh no, when it's 4:30, I get off at 5. I'm already ready to go." Oh, okay, so you come in late and you're ready to leave early, but you want a full day's pay plus an extra bonus because you actually came to work and it looked like you worked, so therefore you deserve a bonus. Like
yeah.
that's not. I'm not saying being a sucker either and be abused by your boss or be used, so you kind of have to balance it out.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. Just making
so I
sure
mean,
that. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I would use what I say something.
Oh, I was just saying, like making sure that there's that balance, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
between your work ethic and being able to balance that with, daily responsibilities or outside responsibilities is
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be honest with yourself. You have to really say, hey, this is what I want to, this is the time I have to devote to this.
right.
And this is my skill level. This is my interest level in developing that skill. And then be honest. And then it kind of works. It may or may not work to your advantage. But if you're not willing to work for something, then you may not get the compensation that you're seeking. And
Right.
then you just have to reconcile that, hey, I'm not willing to work hard enough to make this amount of money or to have this type of position. But it's when that is mismatch is where you have a problem, where you think you're worth something, but you're not willing to work for what you think you want somebody to give it to you
Yeah,
or
you've
that is
kind of
owed to you for some
you've
reason.
kind of beat that into me, just being honest with what I want to do and how much I really
Yeah.
want to make and what that actually means.
Yeah. What does that look like? Like you can do it.
Yeah.
You're gonna make it, like I'm saying, you can make as much as you want to make. Let's do it. Yeah, but I have to do it, but then, like, well, I don't know how that's gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Everybody has their hurdles that they have to jump through.
Right.
So, I mean, even though they want to make a certain amount or something like that, they might have more family responsibilities that they have to deal with, so they can't stay as late or they can't work as many hours. They might have other barriers that are in place preventing them from actually meeting that amount that they expect to make. But it's what you were talking about earlier of being honest with yourself and being honest with, can I actually do this? I say I want to make this much, but do I actually have the time to make that much? Do I actually have the energy to make that much? Do I
Or the
actually have
drive to
the
really work towards it.
right?
Because time is not really an issue necessarily because
I think time is one of
you
my
could
biggest
you
issues.
you learn how to play a video game how fast when you get a new game. How long does it take you to figure out how to play it?
No, it depends. Depends on the game. I'm getting older now, so shit.
But I mean, you know how long it would take me because you showed me one video game and I couldn't move the person, and that was like 3 days, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
But you get a game, you're like, oh, this new game is coming out. You're excited about it. You told me, hey, this new game I played all weekend, and you pretty much by the weekend you had it, and it was a fun experience learning how to do it, right?
Right.
So I mean, you could apply that same approach professionally, saying, hey, this is something new. It's a new opportunity. I'm excited to learn about it. I'm going to spend the whole weekend fiddling around with this new product or this new service, and by Monday, I'm going to be able to tell people about this new thing I'm doing. So you could actually
Yeah,
do
you're
that if
right.
you wanted to.
You're right.
And it's not directly at you. I'm just saying in general, you could people could do that if they wanted to.
Right. It's
But
like
they really choose not to apply their time that way, which is okay. But then that goes back to being honest with yourself, saying, hey, I don't want to spend my time
I
towards
think
this goal. I would rather do something else.
I think that's why coffee has been my drug of choice for the past, like, what is it, year now?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had so many things that I've had to kind of line up to make sure that I've had the energy. Because after you've worked a day and then you have schoolwork to deal with, And on top of that, personal relationships that you have to manage, it can become exhausting. And I think the only thing that's actually kind of propelled me a little bit further than what I normally would have a year ago is the use of coffee. And I know that sounds really weird, but coffee's
Drugs.
drugs. No, for real, drugs are your friend. Don't let anybody tell you. No, I'm
Oh
just
my
kidding. I'm
gosh.
kidding. I'm
I
not
do
saying
not endorse
that.
or
I did not endorse that. Legal drugs. Legal drugs. Coffee, tea. I'm actually drinking tea now to help me stay, actively attentive. Because at a certain point, man, especially since I switched the podcast time to a later time, it's hard to stay focused in the evenings. So having that extra kick of caffeine for me has allowed me to work on some other things that are outside of the normal work or my normal responsibilities, like hobbies that I've wanted to pursue. So like this podcast, for example, like I can have a cup of coffee while I'm trying to edit a video or setting up or trying to look up how to do something on the stream, get it to where I can have dual cameras going back and forth or be able to switch the scenes. Like I've had to drink coffee to do those things because normally, even though it is an interest of mine, I sometimes wouldn't be as motivated because sometimes after a long day of work, it's exhausting. Like Nikki, for example, she's a nurse, and if anybody has worked in the medical field, they know that working as a nurse is extremely exhausting. It's probably the one of the more exhausting fields. But you know, to be able to drink caffeine and then go to the gym, or to be able to do homework afterwards, I mean, you got to find a way to motivate yourself, and I think everybody has that hurdle they have to jump.
I mean, I think motivation is more of an issue than time. I think
Yeah,
people have more time than they give themselves credit for. Because when you want to do something, you find the time to do it.
I agree.
And when you don't want to do something, you find a reason to say you don't have time. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things I need to, like, I have time to go to the gym. I just choose not to. I just choose, it's a lot of things that I could be doing. Like, even now, work wise, like this afternoon, I had a gap between when I finished working and when we started this. I could have been doing some stuff then. I just chose, hey, I need to take a break. This past weekend, I didn't do very much work, if any at all, I don't think. So, I mean, but I could have been working a part time job. I could have been, doing some other things to get additional income coming in. So, I mean, there's things you can do.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of your motivation. And you just have, like, it really goes back in being honest with yourself, saying, hey, I'm just not, I want this, but I don't want it bad enough to actually do anything different to get it.
Right. And Jordan says it's exhausting for nurses. She said it's exhausting and they don't get enough credit they deserve. They don't get all the credit they deserve. I 100% agree. I think nurses are the backbone of the medical field. But like you were saying, I don't think time's the issue. I think it's the motivation part.
Definitely.
It's yeah, it's how do you motivate yourself extrinsically, not in or
Yeah, I
intrinsically,
think motivation is
intrinsically.
more like your truth. It's like, you know what to get you, you know what will inspire you. And if it doesn't
Right.
inspire you, you're faking it. So that's the conversation you and I would have. It's like, if you're not really into that, don't try to do it. You're going to half do it or, not give it 100%. Then I'm going to pick up on that. And then that's going to create an issue that you really don't need to create because I'm already saying, like, hey,
Well,
let's
we
just be
had this
honest. Like, look at all this and
conversation
kind of,
when we first started,
yeah.
where it's how do you motivate yourself after that initial wave of motivation has kind of died out? And
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about discipline, and I know we've shared with each other a lot of image or what are they called, like diagrams of
Mm-hmm.
how to motivate yourself after the initial wave has gone down, and it's the habits that you've built up, constantly making sure that you're doing the same thing every day, at least once a day or something like that,
Right.
no matter how long, just kind of disciplining yourself in a way that that wave of motivation continues.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep at something long enough, diet, healthy eating, working out,
It becomes more habit.
running, you condition your body and your brain to behave a certain way. But if you only do it, if you go to the gym and you kind of walk around like I do, and you end up getting on the bicycle in front of the TV and you're kind of pedaling half, and you really hadn't broke a sweat when you get home, you're like, hey, and then you don't go back for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's kind of my gym routine. So I mean, if I worked like that, or if I started my business like that, said, I do it for one day, I'll work on something, and I don't look at it for 2 weeks. And I mean, my results are going to be, you know, not that spectacular. So I mean,
Right.
again, it just depends on how much time you want to put into it, and you don't really need anybody to give you a schedule to say you need to do this. Because if like, and we've had this conversation, like if I have to tell you to do it, and it's not really something you want to do,
Right.
and that creates a different type of relationship where I'm in control of you, and then when you give me control, then we're going to do it my way, and that's probably not the way that you want to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of end up back where it's like you have this kind of combative or confrontational relationship. It's your boss, and you can be friendly, but you're still like, oh man, he's coming to work.
Yeah. Hey,
What did you expect us to do today?
it's the dog in the background. I'm trying to make sure he doesn't go on a barking rant before it blows everybody's ears
Um,
out. Come
you've
here.
been pretty quiet today.
Yeah, he has. But I guess he just heard another dog bark or someone shut the door outside. So
Okay.
he's he's like, "Hey, you guys are running up on your time. I haven't barked yet. I'm about
Mm-hmm.
to I'm about to ruin this man's
Yeah,
podcast."
right.
Yeah.
Get
But
his 2 cents in.
yeah. No, she says Stark's been a good boy. Yes, yes he has. Stark has been a great boy. He's just chilling over there right now. All right, Dell. Well, we're coming out at the hour mark. I
Oh, wow, that went
appreciate.
fast.
Yeah, I know. See, doing the podcast is real quick. It's you don't realize that you're going through like last week when I was doing the podcast. I didn't even realize I was, an hour and 15 minutes in. But you kind of like lose track. Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but guys,
Everybody gets see what they've been missing out on now by not doing it.
yeah. Well, now they can check this video out on YouTube. So I'm gonna time flies when you're having fun. Jordan, that's funny. Oh man, but you're about to be on YouTube, buddy. You're gonna be YouTube famous. You said that
Oh
right when I
man,
posted that. Oh my gosh. Hey man, Jordan, great minds think alike. That's what it is. That's what it is.
I know. Yeah. So now I have this queasy feeling in my stomach.
What?
I'll being on YouTube.
Yeah, you're gonna be on YouTube. You're gonna be YouTube famous, social media famous. You're gonna get a lot of business from this now.
That would be a good thing.
Yeah, we're gonna
I
be
mean,
able.
hopefully, it was informative to somebody who's maybe thinking about starting their business, and
Yeah. Well, next time we'll have to talk more about motivation because we were just getting into that topic, and I want to be able to. You're gonna be famous, Delano.
most of our conversations ramble. So for us to have kind of some kind of structure to it for an hour was pretty good.
Yeah.
We could go for hours and we'll be like, okay, what are we talking about?
Something. Who knows? But I'm gonna go ahead and call the podcast.
All right.
But
Thanks for having me.
They'll stay on Google Meets,
Okay.
and then we can chit chat about what we're doing tomorrow. But
All right.
thanks guys for coming out. I really appreciate it. Again, Mr. Williams here. So
Thank you.
yeah, check him out. All right, guys. I'll catch you later. Oh, that's my phone getting a call now. Thanks for daydreaming.